Welcome into our Sports First studios. Happy Friday and happy day 2 of the La Liga restart campaign. Things were off to a flying and controversial start yesterday with the Seville Derby. We discussed that match before heading to Barcelona to get the latest on what will be a massive weekend for Real Madrid, Barcelona, and the title hunt. All this before previewing 2 partidazos we have in store for you today, which, by the way, includes another derby. You are very welcome. Sports First starts now. 110 matches played across 39 straight days, and today is day 2 of our Binge beIN campaign. Use the hashtag Binge beIN as you binge the best league on the planet with the best title race on the planet right here on beIN Sports. It's time to welcome in Eric Krakauer to the show, who is socially distanced alongside me in studio. Eric, welcome back. How does it feel?
It's great to be back at a safe distance, of course, but when you are in studio, when you're in the office, it really does feel like work.
It really does, and obviously we kicked off the La Liga restart campaign yesterday with the Seville Derby. What a match it was. A little bit strange having an empty Ramon Sanchez-Pizjuan, but what was your viewer experience like? Did you watch it with the artificial virtual crowd noise, or did you watch it with nat sound?
I did, and I was a convert because, as you know, and as I've said on this show, I like listening to the players. I like the interactions. It reminded me of my early journalist days, but I do like the way that they've sort of infiltrated the sound into the game. I'm not so sure about the virtual crowd. It just looks like a lot of confetti, but it did add to the environment in what was, let's be honest, one of the best derbies in European football.
It really is, and I want to hit the comment section here. Ryan Moran saying yesterday was a lovely feeling to see La Liga back. Yes, it was, Ryan. It was lovely, but it was also controversial. Of course, the big question, was it or wasn't it a PK? For you, was it or wasn't it, Eric?
I think it was. Look, it's a really soft call. You see Marc Bartra rise above Luuk de Jong. He has his elbow stretched out, and that prevents Luuk de Jong to get to the ball. And then what's really important in the play is the fact that VAR did what it's supposed to do. It basically did not overturn a decision that was soft, but was a penalty nonetheless. Just not a clear and obvious error from Matheus Lahoz, who obviously becomes the protagonist in any game that he ends up refereeing.
He is, and the other protagonist, a word that Jamie Easton uses very often, and we'll hopefully link up with Jamie to get the latest on La Liga's restart, is Lucas Ocampos, of course, who was iffy. He was in doubt to start the match. He did start it, and what a flick behind the heel to set up, Fernando, who was also back from injury for that second goal.
Yeah, the Argentine does so well to redirect that ball, to keep it alive, get the defenders out of position, and then Fernando goes in and scores an unusual goal. Not the kind of guy that ends up on the score sheet, but Ocampos was good from the get-go. A shot that clanked off the post early on that Robles really didn't seem to have much of a chance to reach. He was the difference maker, and of course his name is on the score sheet, both for actually scoring himself a delightful penalty, by the way, and getting that redirection to Fernando.
All right, we're going to hit pause on this conversation with you, Eric, and we are going to head to Barcelona to link up with our man, Jamie Easton, who is standing by with the latest news. Jamie, the Seville Derby was off to a great start, but we do want to get the big news ahead of big weekend for Barcelona, Atleti, Real Madrid, as the title race does once again heat up and those teams restart their La Liga campaigns. Let's begin with Barcelona because that is where you are. What's the latest news from Quique Setién's camp?
Yeah, well, Quique Setién just spoke in his first press conference, digital press conference via Zoom with all the journalists, and he said interesting things. He said, for example, that Messi is at 100%, that obviously he will play tomorrow against Mallorca, and he also said that if Nelson Semedo is not a starter tomorrow, it won't be because of his bad behavior, because he has asked for forgiveness inside the dressing room and to everybody inside the club. We have to remember what he did on Monday, attend to a birthday party, and then he had to undergo more tests. Those tests came back negative, so Nelson Semedo will travel also tomorrow with the rest of his teammates. Everybody else trained absolutely normally, and there's a huge doubt in Barcelona whether Suarez will be a starter or won't be a starter. Quique Setién still believes the Uruguayan is not at 100%. That will happen when the big games against Sevilla, Athletic Club Bilbao, and Atletico Madrid will arrive.
Right, maybe wise to ease him back into play, as we all know that he is recovering from a major surgery, has recovered more rapidly than it was expected. So better off to start a little slow. It'll be interesting to see what Quique Setién does there. Let's switch gears. Let's head to the Spanish capital now, Jamie. What's the latest in Real Madrid?
The thing is that Zinedine Zidane has only a centre forward right now. We know that Luka Jovic is injured. He will be for the rest of the season, at least until La Liga ends. Now we also know that Mariano has problems and he won't be able to play here the first game against Eibar. So only Karim Benzema as a centre forward for Zinedine Zidane. If anything happens to him, he will have to improvise. But that wouldn't be a problem, shouldn't be a problem, because he has plenty of players up front now, with Asensio and Hazard recovered, and Gareth Bale. They say in Madrid, they are reporting that he's training absolutely fantastic in these last days. We all remember what his role was before this pandemic. We'll see what his role is right now. It will be interesting to see what is the magic trident, or the new magic trident for Zidane. Will it be Benzema, Hazard and Gareth Bale? Will Asensio fit in? Interesting.
It is going to be interesting. Yeah, a lot of people saying it will be Asensio, Benzema, and Hazard up front. But all eyes will be on that Zinedine Zidane starting 11 sheet to see who he ultimately does go with. And then the other team in Madrid. We're going to get to Getafe later on, but I'm talking about Atletico Madrid, who kickstart their campaign with maybe one of the best matches in this match day against Athletic Club, maybe one of the most difficult also. Huge, because as of now, Atletico Madrid are out of the Champions League, which could have major implications to their financial structure after the pandemic, which we all know has had a major implication and major negative impact on financial structure. So give us the latest on the Athletic camp, Jamie.
Yeah, as you said, there's a huge pressure on Simeone's men for that game. It's always difficult to play at San Mamés. Obviously, this time it could be a little bit more easier, and do not misunderstand me because of easier, but probably San Mamés is one of the stadiums in Spain with the best atmosphere due to the fans, due to the crowd. So that will help Atletico Madrid to play in that empty stadium this time. Simeone knows how huge this game is because, as you said, they are not occupying Champions League position right now. They don't depend on themselves for the rest of La Liga. They also depend on what clubs like Real Sociedad or Sevilla will do. Sevilla won yesterday, so they put even more pressure to Simeone's men. So what Atletico Madrid really want, and their main objective this season, is to end up between the 4 first positions. Because, as you said, there's a huge difference regarding finance situation of clubs, whether qualifying for Champions League or qualifying for Europa League. And it would be a massive disappointment if Atletico Madrid do not play the Champions League next season.
Most definitely. Thank you, as always, Jamie, for the information. Here is a look at the weekend on beIN Sports. Just some of the key matches that you can enjoy live and exclusively right here. Mallorca taking on Barcelona, Athletic Club versus Atletico Madrid, and, of course, Real Madrid hosting Eibar at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium. What a sight that will be, Real Madrid playing at Valdebebas. I want to welcome Eric back into the show. Eric, you just heard the latest news from Jamie. Anything stand out to you in either the Barcelona, Real Madrid, or the Athletic camps?
For me, it's Gareth Bale, because so many question marks about his impact on this team this season. The fact that he's training well suggests that he could have a sneak look into that 11. And as I said earlier, if I was going to pick my top 3 to lead the Real Madrid attack, he would be in it alongside Benzema and Hazard. So I think that's great news for Real Madrid. A motivated Gareth Bale can be a game changer, no doubt about it.
Absolutely, and you have always been Team Gareth to start this restart for Zinedine Zidane. I want to hit the comment section before we move on to another match. Mustafa Gabur saying, I'm so happy that La Liga came back yesterday. Mustafa, we're so happy. Also, Ryan Moran saying, as a Barca fan, I diligently watch Madrid training sessions as well. Interesting, Ryan. And Bale looks healthy and ready. They also say that Eden Hazard looks sensational also in training. So a little bit of nerves, I think, in the Barcelona camp, but it'll be interesting to see who Zinedine Zidane does ultimately give the starting 11 nod to. Now, Jamie spoke about, Atleti having to keep tabs on Sevilla, on Real Sociedad, but I think he forgot a team. He forgot Getafe, who are in action today, kicking off their restart campaign with a trip to Andalusia, taking on Granada. And this match is really interesting, Eric, and I want to begin with the managers, because I think this adds an extra layer to this match. Granada's Diego Martinez and, of course, Jose Bordalas for Getafe, two managers who are making a name for themselves this season, Eric.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's interesting because Diego Martinez is in the position that Bordalas was a couple of seasons ago. Bordalas was the small guy who was making a lot of noise, but now a lot of people are looking at him as a potential big team manager. Whether he can sort of stray away from his bruising football blueprint is a question that he still has to answer. Diego Martinez, very similar in the footballing mold, more defensive, with very few attacking opportunities, and certainly not the same caliber of player as Jaime Mata or Jorge Molina and Angel Rodriguez as well at the top. Although, having said that, Roberto Soldado plays for Granada, and he's a pretty good player still, even though he is in the twilight of his career. It's going to be interesting to see which one of these teams is going to deviate a little bit from the blueprint, because both of them like to give the ball to their opponents and then hit on the counter. Getafe more effective in doing that. And considering that Getafe want to get into the Champions League, the onus is on them to be the more attacking team. Although, it must be noted that they're missing, for me, their two most important players, who are Mauro Arambari and Nemanja Maksimovic, who make that team tick in the middle of the park.
Yeah, they're also without Jaime Mata. We're going to have a full preview for you guys on this match. Granada taking on Getafe. Our preview begins at 1 p.m. Eastern time, so you guys definitely won't want to miss that. The other big match of the day, a Valencian derby. Valencia taking on Levante. A Valencia side who, when you look at them on paper, Eric, they really should be higher than they are. They're currently in 7th place. Levante mid-table. They finished 15th the last 2 seasons, so they're right about where they should be. But Valencia is really the story in this one.
Yeah, they are. Look, they're magnificent playing at Mestalla. They're the 3rd best home team in the league. But a lot of that has to do with the supporters in the stands, who can be very demanding. They expect Valencia to play well. Not necessarily the most aesthetic football, but they want Valencia on the front foot throughout, and they've proven that they can do that at the Mestalla, beating Barcelona, tying Real Madrid. Without the stands, there are question marks. Can they deliver the same sort of performance? And I think that gives a little bit of optimism to Levante, who have traveled very poorly away from the Ciudad de Valencia. They've lost 11 times on the road. But important to note that they will not play any more games at their home stadium. They actually have to play their home games about 150 kilometers away, so 115 miles away, because their stadium is under construction. So this is going to be a very interesting game, particularly to see whether Valencia is able to maintain that formidable home record.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Levante playing at the Camilo Cano Stadium for the rest of their season. But I want to stick with that home field advantage, because in the Bundesliga, we saw home field advantage essentially dissipate. It's a non-existent factor. But yesterday in the Seville Derby, Sevilla still prevailed. They walked away with a 2-0 win, all 3 points. What role do you think home field advantage is going to play in La Liga and primarily in this Valencian derby?
You know what? I don't really know the answer to that, but if we're going to use the Bundesliga as an example, I think that home field advantage will be diminished significantly, and we've learned from the Bundesliga just how important supporters are, not only in driving their teams forward, but also in influencing the calls that referees make. Now, that didn't seem to trouble Mateo Lahoz yesterday with Sevilla giving a soft penalty to the Rojiblancos. But, we still have to see whether we'll see the same trend in La Liga as in the Bundesliga. So far, so good for Sevilla, though.
Yeah, most definitely, and Valencia will hope to keep with that form. But it's not only La Liga Santander that is back today, or returned yesterday. The Turkish Super League is also back, and as one of our leading voices with the Turkish Super League, Eric, Let us know where we left off, because 3 months is such a long time. We kind of forget where we left things off.
Yeah, well, we left off in an incredibly tight title race, and that's saying something because the last 5 seasons of the Turkish Super League have really delivered very tightly contested endings to the campaigns. Right now, only 4 points separate Sivasspor in 4th place from Trabzonspor in 1st, and they're tied for points with Başakşehir. In 3rd is Galatasaray, the only perennial powerhouse out of Istanbul with a chance at winning the title. So very close. I think this is going to go to the very end.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting, and we do have those games for you. Live Turkish Super League action on beIN Sports Extra channel and on beIN Sports Connect. Hopefully we can put up a full screen for you guys to see all that and jot down your notes on where you can check all of those matches out on beIN Sports. Eric, I want to bring things back to La Liga, though, because obviously that's where our focus is and has been for a couple of weeks now. Obviously, a lot of attention on the title race, but I want to talk more about those coveted Champions League spots and the Europa League spots. Who do you ultimately think, when this thing is done and dusted, are going to occupy those final 2 Champions League spots?
I'm going to remain consistent with this. I've picked Sevilla and Getafe all the way through. I have issues with Atleti because they don't score enough goals, and even though they're defensively, they're still one of the best teams in La Liga. They're not the same unbreachable back line that they were last season and the season before that. Sevilla proved they can get it done. That was a big game against a rival, a derby rival. So that, I think, will make that team grow in confidence. The question mark now is whether Getafe is going to be able to get a result at Granada. Los Cármenes, very difficult stadium to play in. Granada have only lost 3 games there all season. But again, no supporters. How will that impact Diego Martinez's men? For Real Sociedad, they play beautiful football, but sometimes they seem to take the pedal off the gas, and I'm not sure whether they'll be able to maintain their incredible form for these remaining 11 games, especially with the games being on top of each other.
So just to reiterate, your 2 finishing in the Champions League spots are who?
Sevilla and Getafe.
Wow. So you have Atletico Madrid not qualifying for the Champions League. You know, a lot has been made about the financial implications, and I touched on this briefly with Jamie, but I want to break it down now more with you, of the COVID-19 pandemic, of not playing in stadiums, of La Liga being stopped. I mean, not qualifying for the Champions League will have huge financial implications because Atletico Madrid are a team that expected to qualify. They planned to qualify. Yeah. And so what kind of impact do you think that could have? Could we see big players walking away next season? Huge.
We could. And when you say they plan to qualify, they plan their budget on qualifying for the Champions League because that's how good they have been in La Liga and how much of a disappointment this season has been, to the point where some people, maybe the minority, have called for Diego Simeone's head. Now, I've criticized him. I think that firing him would be probably a mistake because I'm not sure anybody could really deliver the same way as he has. Let's not forget that he won a title in the 13-14 campaign. But this is troublesome for Atleti, and it certainly will impact their signings in the summer whenever the transfer window actually opens up again.
Right, it'll definitely be interesting to see how this La Liga season plays out. So La Liga is back, the Turkish Super League is back, and today, had everything gone to plan, had this pandemic not erupted and shaken our world, Euro 2020 would have began today. Wow, what a thought. You know, I've kind of totally erased that from my mind. But we're going to enter this hypothetical world. Say the Euro 2020 kicked off today. Who were your favorites to win it?
Well, let me answer this question easily. Portugal would have won it, and Cristiano Ronaldo would retire by riding out into the sunset. It would be a perfect ending to an incredible career. Portugal's certainly one of the favorites, but not the ones that everybody always touts. Germany, France, I think, would be everybody's favorite. But what we have learned from the European Championships over the last few years is that there are a lot of surprises. Let's not forget that Greece won in 2004 in Portugal against our Portugal. It's a shame that we're not going to get that competition this summer, but we will next summer, and I look forward to it. And one of the silver linings is that Portugal is European champion for 5 years and not for the normal 4.
So true, and I think you've completely maxed out on your Portugal quota for the show, so now we have to move on. Copa America also would have kicked off. Who's your favorite to win that competition?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That is a tough one.
Probably Brazil. Neymar would be back in the fold, you would think, and the fact that they won last summer's Copa America in home soil without him, I think, speaks a lot to the work that Chiche has done with the team, how important players like Casemiro have become to that team. So Brazil, my favorite. Argentina is certainly in the conversation, particularly because a lot of people believe that this is one of the last opportunities, or would have been one of the last opportunities for Messi to win a big one with his country. And with Lautaro Martinez next to him, finally a foil to his exploits, somebody that he can play off of for his national team. So those two would have been my favorites going in.
And we've already reached our Lautaro Martinez quota also for the show.
I mentioned him once.
For the 3 months, I think. Yeah, it's been a name mentioned, I think, a little too often on this Sports Burst desk. I do want to hit the comment section, though, because we wanted to take some time in this show to address your questions as La Liga is coming back, as everything is returning and we're living under this new norm. We want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Jude Patrick Alexis, one of the awkward moments of the game yesterday was when the fake crowd disappeared for a moment. Other people referring to the crowd as confetti, like you said, Eric. To be honest, though, I forgot about the crowd. It won me over completely, and I really didn't mind it. What were your thoughts? I know you shared that we have converted you.
Yeah.
But what do you say to the people who maybe say it's confetti and it's too fake and whatever?
You know what? Can we just be happy that we have football back? And let's forget about all that other stuff. La Liga is trying, and I think that La Liga has to be commended, not only with bringing the competition back earlier than most people thought would be possible, but with all these added things in the game that are there to enhance our viewing pleasure. So I'm not going to complain. Yes, it disappeared for a second. Maybe the concession stands opened up, but why are we complaining? We've got La Liga back.
We do. Lorena Rivas, who is a regular on the show, your comment just appeared on the screen, and I want to get to it. What if Atletico Madrid win the Champions League? Well, that's one way to qualify for next year's tournament. What chances do you give Atleti to win the Champions League?
Well, after what they did at Anfield, I think their chances are good, but we'll have to see how the break has affected them. But worth noting that Diego Simeone has a way of getting his players fit very quickly. The regimen that they are under, Atletico Madrid, is about the harshest in professional football. It
really is, along with Getafe, who we'll obviously chat about more in our preview show. Ryan Moran saying, though Griezmann has had a tough time adapting to Barcelona, he is strong for France and did well for Atletico. Perhaps this is evidence that Griezmann's talent should be respected more since Atletico is doing poorly without him. Do you blame Atletico's maybe poor form this season to the Griezmann absence, or more along the lines of to the Diego Godin, Felipe Luis absences?
Oh, if you're gonna pick out a player, it has to be Griezmann, because Atleti have still done very well defensively, and Felipe, by the way, has been one of the stalwarts of the campaign. He's been unbelievable for Atletico Madrid. Griezmann was a player who really made that system tick offensively. He was all over the place. He did so much of the work that goes unheralded at Barcelona. But there are other factors. Diego Costa isn't playing that well. João Felix is constantly injured and hasn't adapted to this new style of football. But I think that's a good shout from the person who left the comment. I don't remember who it was, that Griezmann should really get a lot more respect for what he did at Atleti and what he might yet be able to do in Blaugrana colors.
It was Ryan Moran, who is also a regular. Thanks, Ryan, for your comments. Paula Santos saying Eric has been on point. See, everyone is thrilled to have you back in studio, Eric. We do want to end the show on a sports boost. For those of you that tuned into our Sports Burst PM edition of the show, we always ended the show on a high note, and we do have some good news coming out of the Real Madrid camp. Real Madrid will auction off their jerseys worn versus Eibar this weekend to charity, which is a really nice touch. I'm sure they'll be sprayed down. But these are the things that we'd like to see as football is coming back. But let's not forget the tough times that we've had. Correct, Eric?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we definitely cannot do that. And we always have to keep that in mind as far as I'm concerned.
Let's take a look at what Matchday 28 fixtures remain this weekend. Eric, it is on your screen. Which match are you most looking forward to, besides the one today that you and I get to preview together?
Well, I'm really looking forward to calling Athletic against Atletico Madrid, and not just because I'll be calling it with Thomas Rongen, but because there are a lot of implications there. Athletic still has an opportunity of getting into the Europa League, even though they had a really bad record as of late, just before the interruption. And Atletico Madrid, very tough schedule, and if they want to get into the Champions League, they're going to have to start with a win at the new San Mamés.
Yeah, can't count on Lorena Rivas' prediction of Atleti winning the Champions League. Before we go. 30 seconds, Eric. I want your answer to this question. David Martin in our comment section. Is Atleti the best place for João Felix to be developing?
If you'd asked me that 6 months ago, I would have said yes, because it would have armed him with another side to his football. He would have learned new attributes. As of now, I think he may have been a mistake. He's not the kind of player who's going to get it done when he's playing behind the half-field line. So he should have gone to a more attacking team. I
totally tend to agree, and I don't think, not even necessarily the team, but the system played under Diego Simeone simply does not fit João Felix. We do want to remind you guys to download the latest edition of our beIN coloring book. This one is a special one because you could actually win a signed jersey signed by Raul. Yes, Real Madrid legend Raul. So you definitely want to download that. Check out beincoloringbook.com to get the latest edition of that. And this is a reminder, continue on our binge beIN journey. 110 matches over 39 days, and it continues today with Granada taking on Getafe. Our preview show begins at 1 o'clock. Kickoff is at 1:30, followed by the Valencian Derby. Valencia taking on Levante. Our preview for that one begins at 3:30. Guys, don't move from your couch. Just hang out with us. I'll see you at 1:30. Ciao, ciao.